Alright, I'm screen sharing now.
Yep. Oh, do you want me to stop?
I mean, you can, doesn't really matter. Alright, so um, so here, the mana flow, whatever. Okay, so the main thing I noticed in the early lane phase that I think I want to cover this time is there were a few opportunities where there was a lot of advantages that we could be gained just by like recognizing where Kiana is in relation to the minions and taking advantage of her misplays. Um, so this is fine. Manifold Band harass. In a matchup like this, it's really important. Okay, so she has Doran's Blade, so you can actually harass her out probably, with just autos and Qs, especially if you get like smart electrocute procs. Um, but you have to be really careful about using your mana, obviously, because if you run out of mana, then you can't harass her anymore.
Yeah.
She can just win. Um, that's obviously more important against like say like a corrupting pot fizz or something than Kiana with Doran's that's only got the one stack. Obviously, if you're playing against like a Doran shield champion, then you're just basically fucked if like you don't play it correctly and harass her on your manifold bend. So yeah, like that E probably not ideal. But again, it could be. I mean, it could be considered pretty good just because she has Doran's blade. But meh. Like I think going for it
Okay.
is bad because it wasn't like a guaranteed E. So I didn't tell you during the thing, but this is where you walk up. Since you have the push, it's really easy to just to simultaneously harass and also move up to ward raptors. Doesn't need to be like that good ward that sees the entire pit. It just needs you just need to like see if the raptors are alive, so you can literally move like two Teemos up and ward.
Okay.
Okay. When the wave bounces back to you, this is okay. This is where I got the examples. So you see here, this is this is pretty good because we don't know where Evelyn is. Um, but we also are kind of okay with spending our flash um, if it lets us get like a somewhat major advantage, which would I would call that like getting an E onto Kiana, for example, or Q. I mean, obviously we don't want to trade that, but we're not guaranteed to have to burn our flash, right? So we're okay being in the position where we won't die, but our flash will be burned if we can guarantee this freeze. She's also playing it really poorly. She's not zoning enough. She's not using her threat of Evelyn to push the wave in faster. So she's just basically just last sitting, right? And that's giving you ample time to thin. Right now, she has 5 extra minions, so you're in a pretty bad spot. But you're in a good spot because you have 160 mana still, which is it's something, and you have a health pot, right? So
Right.
the full HP plus health pot is obviously the biggest deal. Like at this stage
Is
in the game,
there
you can basically auto attack her to death.
is there a world right here where I like throw the E, and if I know it's gonna hit, then I flash Q ignite and
Yeah, if you can
and get
solo
the
kill,
electricity
great.
proc, and like she would die right here, and then she'd be like really in a bad spot because then her wave is also freezing in front of my tower.
Maybe that world is more realistic when you hit level 4.
Okay, which is about to happen, I guess. Yeah.
I think generally taking 2 points in E is probably better
Yeah,
than getting your
I
W
agree.
first.
I agree now. I guess at the time I was just worried like of dying to like
Yeah,
something at level 3.
and that's fine. And if we're playing this on a real nice edge, if we're a very high level player, then maybe we actually consider that, and then we say like, okay, we have enough damage, but you'd have to be sure that you'd have enough damage to harass the Kiana out without that, because your E becomes so much more mana efficient at level 2, right? Because like
Right.
at level 1 it does fuck all damage, and then you get 10 extra mana cost at level 2, and then it does so much more damage. And we're not casting our W to trade. We're only casting it if we're getting ganked this early. It's just too much mana to trade with. Okay, you do a good job of last hitting here. You do a good job. You do a pretty good job of holding the freeze. Okay, in this scenario, this will work 100% of the time. Well, not really, but a good enough chunk of the time. If you just walk to the bot side of the lane here,
Yeah, she'll come across and
hmm
go like into Olaf.
she'll play into Olaf exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so this ends up working because I think he flash axes. Is that what happened? Just curious. Oh, just axes. Okay. Okay, so the best play here is to get Olaf to push with you.
Okay. Because then I get a free back off. I get my first item, and she
hmm
still misses a bunch of this CS, right?
Yeah, the amount of CS she misses is lower because the next wave doesn't really get damaged. If you hold the freeze, she's gonna lose, and she does lose. Actually, by the time it comes here. Okay, you thin it a little bit too hard, but she would have lost a couple of minions from the next wave. But still, she ends up actually, there's 7 minions here instead of 6, so you actually end up denying less than if you pushed it. Obviously, you're sharing with
Okay.
Olaf as well, which is not ideal for you. It's pretty alright for him. Overall, I'd say like sharing is not as good as solo, obviously, but um, because Olaf's also committing his time, but it's totally worth having a push here just because of those realities. You're low on mana. You need to get a good reset off. So this is definitely a scenario where you push. But it's also a very timing sensitive thing. So I wouldn't particularly, I mean, call for it, but don't commit to breaking a freeze until you're sure the jungler is coming. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, this is why we're not in like too amazing of a situation. You can also on your first base. I'm not sure how good it is, but you might consider just like first setting the Seekers when you're this far ahead. It's just they have mixed damage, so I mean you're gonna die either way. But if you first item Seekers, I'm pretty sure like you can the positions you can take to auto attack her are so generous because if she jumps on you, then you just win the trade anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to do that, but given that you have electrocute, like the Q auto Q trade is still gonna deal a shit ton of damage. Okay, so here we definitely want to like we can micro this a little bit better. Um, so yeah, so it's frustrating. The problem is when you laser the minion wave, it moves a little bit forward, right? So it makes our position a little bit worse because you see we're killing this wave early compared to if we
Yeah.
left it. It's not a huge deal, but it kind of like I mean they walk forward like a team or two, right? So okay, Evelyn, world's best gank. You have Olaf. Olaf, if he was good, would be moving to help you, but like you can still. Oh, I'm sorry, he's totally out of health. Never mind. Um, so yeah, you can here you can E the entire wave, I believe. I think you have the range. If not, you can at least E all except the one that your cursor is currently on.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I could for sure do that.
and then you can R like right here. Your R can be hitting the cannon and those casters. This is just
Yeah.
poor control. And you can also be standing up and auto attacking. And she can harass you off the wave and set up a freeze, but the amount of health that she would have to take to do that, she'd have to spend a couple hundred mana and a lot of health as well because she'd have to stand in your ult as you just kite back and get an electrocute proc. So then you're okay with that because then by the time you walk back to lane, yes, she has a freeze, but you immediately break the freeze. It's mid lane, so it's not like she's gonna get a lot from you, right? She has no TP,
Right.
she has no health potions. She's gonna be back in a bad spot. You're gonna be able to take control of the wave immediately and get back all the CS that she um, got the advantage on you by freezing. Yeah, this laser is really good because it doesn't fuck with your wave. It'd be okay if like wait, when was it? Fuck these 10-second skips. Yeah, like that laser was really good because it doesn't fuck with your wave, right? But we also need to
Yeah.
like actively thin because it's obviously gonna crash a little bit too fast right now, and then it does kind of end up. If you hit like 2 minions, then that'd be ideal. But just yeah, the balancing act is was not in your favor there. Again, like I think it's a really good to just given how much Victor loves to play to pockets and how much of a risk you're at when Evelyn is alive, especially post Eve 6, keeping the minion wave there is a really good. Especially before she has Mobies, right? Because she can't really roam before Mobies. I mean, she can totally. She's amazing at roaming, but it's not going to be to the level of where she can just basically leave the lane and threaten a gank and only lose like 2 minions every single time, right?
Yeah.
The commitment is way higher. So you ping this, you probably could have pinged more. And I mean, obviously Jax, I think he knew, but he just flipped it anyway.
So
I'm
like
not
right here,
not
as soon
100%.
as I saw Evelyn show up, I could have just moved.
Yeah, Evelyn's
Right, like right,
right here.
right
Yeah,
there.
and we could have moved beforehand because we saw her here. So she's level 5 right now, maybe 4. I think she's 5. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I could have moved now, I guess.
hmm
I honestly didn't see that.
This is where a camera pan is useful, but you should because we're looking at the map here. Your eyes should be trained on the map right now because of what just went on. And we see Jax, we know the Roma's going to happen. So we're looking top, and then we're immediately thinking, how do we answer this? And our mindset is, okay, bot's getting hard shoved, and we can see Senna is behind the 2 turrets. We know that there's a good chance they're setting up a dive. This is like prime, like a dive is happening territory. So
Okay.
now this ends up being really good for you because if you just stay and you never even try to move, it's really good because you end up getting an extra plate, I think, and you deny a bunch. But that's just because they ended up botching it because there's this. I think does Karma use like a good stopwatch or something? No, Senna does a good stopwatch, I think. No, I don't know. We watch bot at some point. But you didn't roam once this game, right?
Right.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we want to at least be in like setting ourselves up in the position and then walking back several times. I think this is generally a bit passive of a, and we know she's coming in here, so when you make this play, this is just knowing your limits and stuff. I think walking through this, she plays it pretty well. Where she knocks you into the wall from you can't. I don't think there's a way you can be in this bush and not get knocked into a wall. If she just puts either direction, she can send you. I think any
Yeah.
further up, she just puts you in the top wall. Um, Here, yeah, I think it was a total mistake by Olaf because look, Senna recalls. Senna's recalling. We know their bot's gonna be back first, and then it's just this very awkward scenario where you can't really do much for him
Right.
because the Kiana is moving. So I think we should just ping him off here. But I think, oh yeah, I think at this point you might have been able to like send some lasers and help him burn it, but he ends up getting it anyway. It's just dying for it. Yeah, so like at this point, this second, wait, what the fuck? My bad. Where were we? At the second like Senna dies, we know that it's gonna be disengaged. Karma's out of mana. Um, I mean, I suppose like okay, Karma can chain and then Olaf can land multiple axe chains, but I mean
Probably not.
this
Yeah.
is just a thing from like from watching. Yeah, I mean Kaelin's full HP, right? Full mana, so um, I think the it was at that point like that's where you immediately know okay I can't move it. That's kind of the pivot. But that's something you get from watching a lot. So I mean you'll want to move more often when you're less experienced. You really don't want to move away and then realize that like oh the fight actually went on. That's like worst case where you give up a roam. So they play this better, you die. It was my bad. I wasn't telling you to back off here.
It's okay. I kind of
Um,
felt it. Like I knew like I wasn't gonna be able to come up to
yeah,
that at all. I was just trying to get my E up
yeah,
from cooldown so that I could just E it and back up.
yeah, yeah. I mean the old cannon bait. I mean
Yeah.
yeah, red buff plus Evelyn passive um, ends up being really great for you. But uh, had a play today where I failed a wall hop as Riven, and I ended up just baiting him into my jungler because he kept chasing. It was like one of those weird scenarios where it's like, man, me inting really paid off this game. Kind of like you not moving immediately ended up being good because like it was the way it played out was that they died anyway, bot. Or for example, us not backing off that that gank. Okay, okay, this was good. Okay, so you did run this game right. Okay, level 10, but you know. Also, I think, I mean, yeah, against Kiana, it's probably pretty good to take Scorch. Transcendence is also a really good option. But yeah, here, our goal is just to deny this wave, right? If Orange stays, we kill him. If not, we back off. That's the big deal because there's all these minions that are just open in mid lane. So you're just
Right.
trying to secure as many lanes of farm as you can. Top is obviously crashing, so that's really great. If Kiana wants to dance with you top, that's great too. Um, and Olaf has topside camps. He's got a scuttle. He's got a herald. He's got a lot of stuff to do top. So if if Ornn is resetting and can't get back the lane because you guys are pressuring him, and then Jax is able um, to crash waves, and then you and Kiana are being in equal usefulness in the scenario, it's totally a win for you guys. Yes, the play is
This
happening
is what
bot
just
side,
solo
but
kills me.
you're compartmentalizing what's going on. You're not like trying to look at the entire map because like Evelyn could just easily be AFK farming. This is unfortunate. I think here like this is where
Right.
the
If I
habit,
W, as soon as this happens, right here,
yeah,
W.
this is a little tricky because she can if you W like you have to W yourself, and you're gonna get knocked back. So this is like a Kiana specific thing where you kind of have to W the wall next to you a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a
Um,
W the way that I know I'm gonna go,
but
which
even
is
if you
towards
W
the
yourself,
wall.
you run this like really high chance of like her basically inting and like not
Yeah.
microing correctly, and then just stunning yourself anyway, and then you win. So, and this is kind of the start of the end where Kiana ends up getting super fed. Um,
Right.
so
I don't know how Jax dies here. He flashes out and gets out.
he
Oh,
comes
he
back
goes back.
to farm. Yeah.
And then she just does Kiana things and kills him.
Okay. Getting the tower is good. At this point, better camera control tells us that the turret is doomed. If we pan our camera to the turret, we can tell its HP, right? So
Yeah.
look at the turret was like just above 1/3, I think. So I thought that was savable. It was not.
So would I have
So
just stayed mid here instead
yeah, you
then?
just stay
Like
mid.
knowing I
You
couldn't have
stay
saved
mid
it?
because Jax can just catch it. You're literally not getting anything by going top, because like
Yeah.
the only way you get something if you go top is if she's actively keeping the turret alive in order to deny. But yeah, she's right next to it. She's probably not doing that. And we can also obviously pan our camera anytime and tell.
Okay.
Okay. And then it's kind of more of the same for the most part. We got quite a bit of uh, the main mistakes were just kind of overextending for nothing. Yeah, good example. Um, there was a lot of opportunities where you could have just out mechanicked it and didn't, whatever, and we talked about those. But the overlying issue is definitely that like we don't really need to be like okay. So in this scenario, I know I was calling by now for you to leave, and you need to like especially when you have a vision line like this, like you're pretty safe. There's not really any routes Kiana can take that can kill you because your team is mid. Um, but the second, like, there's one small route you can take that would be unfortunate if you died. But whatever, it's fine. I would risk this. Um, I'd flip the push this wave if. But we see her right, so at this point you can move. Jax can match you. You have a pretty good chance of living, even though she's got Mobies. And then here, obviously, you can kill her. Yeah, if you get a Q and R, yeah, she dies. You have QR ignite.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like I said, you can out mechanic these things, but the overlying issue is like we're just a little bit too far up, and that's obviously like, I mean, control mages like Viktor can be really really strong in solo queue, but a lot of times like you want to do something on the map, and there's just not much to do, and you just have to accept that like there's nothing you can really do, especially against assassins like this. Here's another good example of that. Um, we wanted to watch Kiana, but remember this is Ornn and Leona. Like it's so hard to and yeah, when you walk like this, we know that Leona is somewhere in that fog that's right north of you.
Yeah,
So and
we
then
should have
Ornn
just
is like
backed and
yeah,
went like towards bot lane or towards bot side.
pretty sure Ornn has ult here. Like there's they have so much kill range, right? Like they you
Right.
basically didn't get hit by Caitlyn or like you didn't get either carry. It was basically Ornn solo killed you with this damage because um I mean that's how overextended we were. So yeah, Ornn could have opened with his ult. They could have killed you if they were like an entire screen back basically. So yeah, the play pattern here is just basically sit at your towers and rotate to collect waves, and then poke your head out when you have your team around you. But otherwise, this was a lot of like Victor specific things that went wrong because Victor, this is his weakness in a lot of ways. He can't overextend like this. Um, he can once he reaches a certain threshold where he can W under himself, and if there's not enough people that can threaten him. But you were either not at that point, or when you were because they flipped it, you didn't execute correctly. Um, I would say like this. I noticed a lot more Victor specific issues this time, right? Um, Given
Okay.
that Kiana and Evelyn were there to emphasize, they had a lot of engage and they had a lot of pick. So given both of those things, there were a lot of issues there. So I mean that's the main takeaway from this one. Camera control still needs work. Decision making, movement on still waves. I think or movement on each wave. I could definitely see you trying to do this um, actively. Like you were, I had noticed a few things like that ward that was kind of useless. Like at least you were warding. Um, but yeah, I would definitely look mostly to the camera control as far as like general things here. And if you're playing a lot of Victor, definitely get better at like recognizing where you just can't do anything. Because I mean, if you just don't die in this game, there's a good chance you win. Like if you just like sit back at your towers and stuff and concede a lot more. Obviously, this isn't like the like conceding stuff sucks, but in this scenario, like there's not too much you can do if Kiana, Evelyn, or Leona get onto you, right?
Right.
So this is just the reality we're faced with, and it's a lot of playing Victor. It's just pressing S and going on Reddit while the map's dark against assassins. You can't really, but it's fine because you're Victor late game, right? Like when you're in the back line, you do so much damage that you can afford to concede a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. That
But
makes a lot of sense actually.
yeah, otherwise I'd mainly just think about the Victor stuff. That was the main thing that came up. But the same issue of camera control, not issue necessarily, is something that I think is really important to improve on. Um, and just I would say think about the routes you're taking. Try to go for roams just like before. But yeah, otherwise same type of thing. As long as you're continuing to see improvement day to day, week to week, whatever, then keep mostly doing what you're doing. And this is just kind of the check in.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just
Kind of
keep doing it.
yeah.
Like that's I think like you said, like just keep doing it, keep recognizing
Yep.
like what's happening, what you can do based off of what's happening, and then just try to keep getting better at like actually doing the camera control. Because
Hmm.
especially in this game, like I felt like there were things that were good, like things that felt better too. Like um, I set up that really quality freeze against her, put her in bad spots where she had to um, extend, and
Yes.
it doesn't always like work out super well. Like I'm not always gonna get ganked at that perfect time, but the fact that it's still
Well,
there
you
and
don't
that
even need to get ganked
opportunity is there
when
is
you
fantastic.
chunked her out and set her in that freeze. You didn't need to get that gank. You imagine what
Yeah,
happens if
I
you
know.
don't get ganked. She's fucked. She probably
Right.
loses more if she doesn't get killed because she
If she,
stays
yeah,
forever and she never gets the reset. And
yeah,
she doesn't know how
because
to
she
deal
can't
with
get
that.
anything.
She doesn't call for her jungle to crash. So yeah, that's the
Yeah, so
yeah.
like those things are like things I definitely did not do when we first started doing this. Like those weren't even things I was like
Weren't on your
knowing
radar,
to
yeah.
like recognize. Or thinning the wave. Like you were telling me to thin it, but I knew I needed to. Like I had already knew that I needed to thin this wave
Yeah,
to be able to
great.
freeze it because I didn't need, I don't need 13 minions to freeze a wave. I only need like four. Um, and so like being able to thin some of those casters and then like trying to hit her and the wave at the same time while I'm trying to thin it is like perfect because I'm getting mana flow, I'm poking her, and I'm thinning at the same time.
Yeah,
Um, so like I feel like there's a lot of good things. It's just like then there's other things like just keep the camera control like working on it because that's it's kind of difficult, or I think it's pretty difficult anyway. and then like keep getting that knowledge. So
Yes.
um, yeah, I mean overall, like I felt like there were a lot of things I did much better than I used to do, and that's like to me that's what's awesome.
No, well, I'm really glad you feel that way. And I tend to agree. I think there was definitely some things that I remember your first session on Casio, right? And was it Casio? It was Casio, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, and you were just like you had this massive advantage, right? But like you looked better in this game than you looked in that game. Even though you hard smashed that game, this game you could clearly tell like there were there were more complex um, play patterns going on,
Right.
and they need work, they need polishing, but they're there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's what's
definitely.
important is
Yeah,
that they're there. I know what they are. I know what I'm to be like doing or what I'm looking for even. Like I can't polish something if I don't even know it exists yet, right?
right, right,
And now
exactly.
it's like I know what I need to be doing, and as long as I can just keep improving on those things, then eventually I'll just keep playing at a higher level.
Yeah,
And
and like I
that's
said, like
like
you need to you eventually reach that balance where you can be that player, that Casio player that like was able to like um, be a lot more aggressive and like body people and lane a bit more, but also like you know pull back and have the intelligence to actually be able to play the situation better where it's well one you can abuse these winning situations harder, but then also yeah you don't want to you won't need to rely on these mechanics where in against players that won't just kind of run into you and you can create
right.
yeah I mean just it's better in every scenario when you can actually like manage waves and when you know what to do after you get advantages. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, great.
definitely.
Next week we can do a VOD review. We can either do like a pro game or a VOD of your own. It doesn't really matter. Uh, no, we already did a VOD review with a pro, right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
yeah.
we did that one.
Then let's do a VOD review of your game.
Okay.
Take it back. Take a bit more of a theoretical approach, unless you feel like you still need significant more polishing, and then we can just do a long form replay and or a long form live review, and then just a little bit more emphasis in this one because it's 90 minutes next week, right? So
Right.
um,
Okay.
yeah. Till then,
Um, if we do
anything
the VOD
else?
review, do you want me to upload it to YouTube?
Yeah, yeah. And just take your time,
Okay.
figure out what you want to do, and just in the next, whenever. It doesn't really
Yep.
matter. I can pivot on the day.
Awesome. I will do that then, man.
All right. Any other questions?
No, no, I'm good.
All right. Peace, man. Till
All
next
right, I'll
time.
see you.